welcome to the Lalantia show. Today I'm coming on to talk about Merlin and just sharing more about working with Merlin and my experiences with Merlin. I have had quite a few people find me through my one Merlin video, and it is way past time to do more videos about Merlin. So in this video, I'll share a bit more about my experience working with Merlin and how he kind of shows up as a guide for us. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Lalantia. I'm a psychic realm channeler and energy healer, and I work with all kinds of magical energies. I work with dragons, unicorns, mermaids, fairies, and that's kind of what I'm known for. That's what people tend to come to me about, but I also work very deeply in a lot of galactic energy, and galactic energy and magical energy actually has a lot of crossover. It took me a little while to understand that. It's not really so different, that there's a lot of magical energy on, other planets as well. So, and magical beings on other planets. And so I do a lot of past life work. I do a lot of helping people, the people that I mentor and work with. It's about opening your abilities, connecting with your guides, understanding these incredible beings that are available for us to work with, are available to us, and helping us as we create the new earth. So in this video, I'm just going to kind of be specific about talking about Merlin because people have a lot of questions about him. Now, I haven't rewatched my previous video. There may be some crossover. It's been quite a long time since I recorded that video. So you can definitely check it out. But if there's some crossover, then I apologize, but that's okay. Some things we need to hear a few times anyways. So I started working with Merlin, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. I was probably working with him even before that, and I wasn't even aware that that's who he was. But I had been working with him a little bit, and I didn't really realize who he was. I was still fairly early in my awakening, and so I didn't really understand, I guess. I think that I didn't actually trust that it was actually him, because there was a part of me that didn't believe I was worthy or good enough for Merlin to come forward for me. But once I began to understand more, and I began to trust him, I was working with a mentor who validated my experiences. And actually, I think he came forward when we were doing a journey together, and she asked me who she knew who he was, but she asked me if I knew who he was. And I said, Merlin. I was really worried that it wasn't actually Merlin. And it was, I was right. And he, and I just began to work together. So Merlin to me is a mentor. And so he works with a lot of people in this capacity and helping you understand your own power and abilities in the magical capacity. So what I mean by this is working with energy in different ways. So somebody asked in my group, I have a group on Facebook called Sorceress Circle, and somebody asked about pyrokinesis. I think that's what it's called. Moving fire with your mind. And this kind of made me think about, I wanted to connect the two, because to me that is, we are learning to work with the elements with our mind, that we're being able to move the elements with our mind, but not in the physical. It's in the energetic world, right? It's not necessarily moving fire physically, although to some degree we can. And this conversation that we had, the warmth in the hands, definitely. And I think that we're moving more towards doing more in the physical world, but we learn the energy is just as powerful in the energetic world. We'll just put it that way, energetic world. So when I started working with Merlin, it was a lot about understanding energy and understanding how to move energy and working with the components of energy. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but when I had first started working with him, he took me to his, I don't know what to call it. Not a study, but it's there's lots of test tubes around, and it's his place that he does, I don't know, not exactly experimentation, but where he does his work basically. And he brought me in there and he began to teach me about energy. Now, a lot of what he was teaching me in the moment of him teaching me, I didn't really comprehend it. I didn't understand it fully in that moment. There were bits and pieces that I understood, but it took me a while to actually integrate it. And I didn't ever have like an aha moment of these things that he taught me. It's just now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, like he taught me so much. I just didn't understand it in that moment. And that's kind of how our relationship has been. And he has been a mentor to me in different past lives, and I have seen some of those. One in particular is quite clear to me, where he trained me, I guess. So we have a strong bond in that way. So it's easier for me to connect with him since I connected with that past life, because it awakened a remembrance in me. But I always kind of had that to some degree when I would connect with Merlin and feel like a remembrance through my body, and just a familiarity, like he was family. And he always felt really, like I always felt really comfortable with him and not intimidated by his energy. Now, if we just say Merlin, and before I ever connected with him, I would probably be like, whoa, like I'm way too intimidated to work with Merlin, because he has a reputation, right? He has a reputation. So we just assume that he's going to be, I don't know, beyond us. But I actually had a very strong bond with him immediately. That doesn't mean that I didn't ever have resistance. In fact, sometimes I still do have resistance, because a lot of the things he teaches us or helps us remember really is what we think is going to be is beyond us. We think that it's too hard or that we're not ready for it, but he pushes those boundaries, and he kind of pushes us to remember more of that power that is within us. So in working with the elements, working with the vortexes on Earth, working with energy for healing and for manifesting and for a lot of different reasons, it's absolutely amazing. So it wasn't the beginning of my journey. I'd been working with Merlin for probably a couple of years when I had my Merlin vortex opened, my Merlin vortex wheel opened or activated. And I did that through a course. Somebody else needs to do the activation. I talk about more of this in my other video where I talk about Merlin. At least I'm pretty sure that was a major topic of that one. So once that vortex was activated, then I began to understand energy even in a different way. And even still, sometimes I need to step back from what I think I know and allow myself to see things in different ways. And a lot of times this is how it needs to be when we're learning about energy, because we learn one way and then we so easily just fall into that repeating pattern. But there's actually lots of other ways, and we need to look beyond what we think we know to open up these doors into other energy. So when I recorded the other video about Merlin and I talked about the vortex wheel, now how I see the vortex wheel probably is very different from how it was then, because I've allowed myself to see it even more clearly and understand it even more. And I've done a lot more activations on other people, and so that their vortex wheel is also all activated. So in that, I have understood it better as well, because I see their vortex wheel and I see and hear their experiences and working with it. So it just has helped me understand it a little bit more as well. And the vortex wheel that is located in some of us. We had it placed there by Merlin in a past life. It allows us to work with energy in a different way than a lot of other people. And we need to learn to own that power that we have. And I think that when it comes to Merlin, a lot of times it's easy for us to just be like I said before, we think that we're not ready or we're not good enough, and that there's no way that we have the ability to wield that much power or that much energy. And that's not true. So working with Merlin is about that remembrance and about understanding the power that we actually have. And he has a sense of humor, but he can be like very I don't know, to the point doesn't quite, I don't know, he doesn't mess around. He doesn't play around. He just goes straight into things. He doesn't doubt us. He will push your comfort zone. He wants you to see your true magnificence in your magical abilities and to own that within yourself. He doesn't want you to continue to just sit in this place of, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, this is too hard, I don't know how to do that. And we'll just keep going through that forever because we never really feel like we're ready. But once you start to do it and you start to practice and working in that energy, then you start to realize you actually are ready. So he is definitely stepping forward for a lot more people in regards to the work that we're here to do. So for some of you watching this, it's time for you to get your vortex wheel activated. It's time for you to begin to step into this energy. And that is a lot of what I do with a lot of my clients, a lot of people that are drawn to working with me. It is to activate the vortex wheel. It is to connect and train with Merlin. It is to activate remembrances within and to step into that role. And whatever label you give yourself. When I started working with Merlin, I actually called myself a sorceress. I work in a sorceress energy. My Facebook group on Facebook is called Sorceress Circle. And I do work in a sorceress energy, but people are rather triggered by that word. So I don't just fling it around willy-nilly. I don't use it all over the place. I use it in my group because it's a safe space with open-minded people, but people don't understand, you know, if I use my title as sorceress, they're just like, what does that even mean? So it doesn't really describe, for some people, it doesn't really describe what I do. But in fact, to me, being a sorceress is being able to wield energy, to be able to work with the elements and to be able to use your mind, to be able to move energy, to be able to move things around, to be able to heal with the mind, you know, or move energy with the mind. So you can label yourself anything you want. You can call yourself a wizard or a witch or a sorceress or whatever resonates with you. Now, some people feel like they need to limit themselves on their titles. Don't limit yourself. This is one of the reasons why I don't label in that way. I don't call myself a shaman. I don't call myself a priestess. I don't call myself a sorceress. At least I do. I mean, I do sometimes, but I don't really use that when I'm talking about myself in a title because that limits me, because I actually work in all of those energies. I am a priestess. I am a shaman. I am a sorceress. I am a witch. I am all of these. I am so many things, but I can't limit myself with one title. So, and that's one thing I encourage my clients to. Don't feel like you need to title yourself something like that. You can work in a lot of different energies. You don't have to be just one. And for me, it was pretty impossible to just pick one. You know, I would go through a period where I'd be working really deep in the priestess energy, and then it's like, oh, I'm definitely a priestess. And then I'd be working really deep in the shamanic energy, and I'd be like, oh, I'm definitely a shaman. And it's like, well, I can't really limit myself in all of these things. You know, I'm trained in working in all of these energies. I can't limit myself with saying just one. But if you feel called to just being one, then that's fine. And it doesn't have to be a limiting energy. You know, the priestess energy is very expansive, for example. But you also don't need to feel like you have to just because other people do. So Merlin is about expansion. He wants to push you outside of your comfort zone, like I said, and allow you to see the world in a different way, to see energy in a different way, to see the universe in a different way, and to see beyond what you think you know. And I feel like that is one thing that we often get caught up in because, I mean, of course, when we have our awakening and we realize that there's more to everything, then we start to broaden our perspective on things. But even then, even when we're awakened, even when we begin to understand energy, even when we're working in an energy, we can limit ourselves because we get used to it and it becomes familiar and it becomes what we limit ourselves with what we know. So this is where it's important to just push outside of that and I look at it actually a little bit different than pushing outside of that is actually coming within and pretending like I don't know anything at all. What does it look like if I know nothing at all? And that allows me to kind of see things with fresh eyes. One thing I love about working with Merlin is that his personality is pretty easygoing. He doesn't take himself or you too seriously, but at the same time, he does. I don't know if that describes things very well, but he is very easygoing. I say he's really easygoing. He's easy to talk to. He has a sense of humor. He's not too serious, but he also doesn't play around with things. So when it's time to do something, he's just, and you're like, oh, but I'm too scared, or oh, I'm not ready. And he's just like, yes, you are. And he's not going to just let you play around, or he's going to, you know, step away until you're ready. But yeah, he doesn't, you know, time to us is different than time in the spirit world, but he's an incredible mentor. So if you've been feeling that call and just very interested in Merlin, then definitely consider, you know, taking some time to connect with him, or set that intention to begin to connect with him. And perhaps you already have, and that's amazing. One thing that I want to mention before I get off of here, since I haven't already mentioned it, is Merlin is actually a title. So Merlin, I'm a Merlin, for example. Merlin is a title of that is for people who have, or beings, because it doesn't have to be just human, but beings who have trained under a certain energy from the first Merlin. So when I talk about Merlin, in the sense that I've been talking about Merlin in this video, I'm talking about the Merlin that we all know and love from the Arthurian times. So that Merlin energy to me is the one that I am most strongly connected to. Now, I try not to get too, I try not to limit myself to thinking of Merlin as just that energy, but I had been working with Merlin for a few years before I ever understood that Merlin was actually a title. So everybody, you know, like, you have to listen to what resonates for you and what seems like your truth, and you don't have to take what I say or what others say. Like, tune into what feels right to you. So I just want to explain how I see it and how I understand it, but at the same time I know that I'm always learning more, and maybe there's more. I'm sure that there's going to be way more that I'm going to learn about Merlin and my experiences in working with Merlin and all of this. So I think, once again, it's that allowing yourself to kind of forget everything you think you know, to allow yourself to see something different, or see things in a different perspective. So I think that that's probably enough for this video. I'm talking about Merlin. I do have availability. Well, this is YouTube. Who knows? By the time you see this video, I might not have availability, I guess. But I do work with people in one-on-one to activate your Merlin vortex wheel. It is not a difficult process, but there are some things that you need to be prepared for. Your energy needs to be at a kind of a particular place. I'm not like it. I don't want to be like, you have to be in the exact right energy and blah, blah, blah. No, oftentimes we overthink things, in fact, but if you're like having a dark night of the soul or something, it might be important to do healing before we go in and do that. But if that is something that you are called to and you want to do it at some point, no matter if you're not ready now, or if you would like me to just tune in and see if it's time now, or just have a conversation with me, please do message me. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. Instagram messaging is pretty easy. Just shoot me a message. I usually see the ones that are in my other folder. Facebook, I might miss them for a little while. So it might take me just a bit. Actually, if you find me on Facebook on my business page, I don't think I can miss it, but I don't know. Facebook is a little bit weird. So you can also contact me through my email, which I think is listed on my website. But yeah, I'm happy to have a conversation with you if you feel drawn to that and you want to learn more, or if you just want to have a conversation about sharing your experiences. You know, I can't guarantee that I can just sit and have a long conversation with you, but I may. You know, it all depends on what's going on in my life and how busy I am, and if my dog is on bed rest and I have to sit in my room 95% of the time, which is where we're at right now. He's on bed rest, but he's doing well, just resting. So I thought I'd pop up and do a video. Yeah, and if you have questions about Merlin, if you have things that you're wondering about Merlin, please post them below, or if you have experiences to share in the comments, let us know. So for one, if you ask questions, then I know what to focus on for future videos, because I do know that I am going to be doing more videos about Merlin, probably channeling him and sharing what he wants me to share. This video is more of kind of an introduction and talking more about working with him and what that means to work with him, and all of that. So definitely let me know so that I know where to kind of direct future videos as well. And I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me. As I had mentioned, I do have a link below to join me in my group, Sorceress Circle. I go live 3 times a week with my friend Natalie, and we do channeling, we do weekly readings, we do conversations about different spiritual topics. So definitely join us there. I also have the link to sign up for my newsletter, where you can find out which, there's a quiz to see which magical being you may benefit from working with most at this point in time, as well as 2 meditations. So I hope that you are having a absolutely magical day, or night or morning or whatever time it is for you. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.